Hey there, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back to Rob's Funk and Junk episode number 18. Number 18. I must be off my mind. It is 3:20 in the morning here. Saturday the 11th of February. Hang on, my mic is too loud. Turn the gain down a little bit here. Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, it's 3:20 in the morning. I woke up in my bedroom. It's Saturday the 11th. It's actually my sister's birthday today, so happy birthday, my sister, my gorgeous sister Karen. Yeah. Yeah, I've been laying in bed, awake, for the last hour, not being able to sleep, and my brain has been going round like a fucking like a pair of trainers in a washing machine, as Alan Partridge would say. Excuse me. How is everybody out there? How's life? What's going on for you all, wherever you are? I'm just tweaking as I go here. I didn't do my podcast earlier this week. I've been otherwise distracted by other things. What's been happening? Yeah, I've just been working in the studio this week. I had a couple of sessions in, which was nice, and then I've actually been in quite a creative headspace of late, but also doing a lot of pondering. I had a bit of a bout of lack of confidence earlier this week. I had a few things sort of playing on my mind. Spoke to my wife about it, who's my unpaid therapist. But yeah, I've just been sort of having a few things where I've been thinking, well, what's happening? What am I doing? Especially with my guitar playing and stuff like that. So I don't know if anyone else has that kind of stuff going on, but I certainly do all the time. Don't worry, I'm not about to quit. I'm just kind of sort of trying to think of things I really like doing, and trying to do less things that I don't really enjoy. Nothing in particular. It's just a few sort of things that come up where you go, I'm spending too much time doing this and it's not really bringing me any joy, so I'm going to carry on doing something that brings me joy. I've been in the studio quite a lot, doing a bit of creating, working on some tracks, and it's led me to sort of think about quite a few things that excuse me, sorry. It's just led me to think about things that are sort of how to stay current these days, how to be out there and do things, and maybe it comes from a lack of touring as much at the moment. Although I'm sort of out on tour later this year, I'm starting to think about when we're going out on tour again, and are you current if you're not posting online all the time? And hang on a minute, bit of noise coming in here from somewhere. It just makes you think, are you current if you're not posting all the time on Twitter? Or I don't use Twitter, but like on Instagram, I spent a few weeks just not posting, not feeling like I want to post stuff. I know this is going to sound ridiculous to anyone who doesn't have or is interested in that kind of stuff in Instagram or Facebook or any of that shit. But are you current unless you have lots of likes or followers? Are you important anymore? And then it's kind of been, I hear it quite a bit. I talk to my son about it because he's sort of working on his on his own music, and he's of that age group where it's really important, or it's seen to be important to be out there and have people seeing your numbers. This has come from, actually. So, okay, here's another thing. Sorry, I'm rambling. It is 3:25 in the morning, so please excuse me. The band that I have, along with Paul Turner and Ivan Trionic, we tried to get a gig in a venue in London. And, we've been going a while, and we have people that know about us around the world, and, but we tried to get a gig. We have an agent that approached a venue, a well-known venue in London. The Jazz Cafe, actually. I don't mind. I can say who it is. It's the Jazz Cafe. We have this venue in London. We played there before many times. We had a band. Paul and I, it was actually Paul and I put a little band together, called Dot Funk. And we played there 2 or 3 times. This is back in the day, so probably 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. We played there. This band, Dot Funk, was a funk review band, basically. We used to play all covers, no original material. We played there. It was a band that had, it was, how many pieces? 4-piece horn section, keys, guitar, myself, Paul. We had 2 singers, male and female singers. One of them, the male singer, used to play percussion. Anyway, it was quite a large band. And we sold it out 3 times, right? No social media, because back then, I think the only social media there was MySpace. Don't even know if it was, I think it was really sort of early on in Facebook. But we had no social media, really. It was word of mouth. So we'd sell this place out 3 times, the Jazz Cafe. Just through word of mouth, basically. We'd announce a gig, and we would do tickets on the door, and everyone in that band, all the horns, would come out of there with £400 in our pocket, right? We'd earn 400 quid each a night, the whole band. It was sold out. Now, we did that again with a band called Shuffler. Paul and I and Derek and a singer called Daniel Pierce, we sold that out. I think we did that twice at the Jazz Cafe. Sold it out. No social media, very little social media, no Instagram, little bit of Twitter back in those days. We had people visiting from India to come and watch us play. So anyway, this agent approached the Jazz Cafe the other day on our behalf, and we couldn't get a gig. We couldn't get a gig there because they looked at our Instagram numbers, and they've not said this, but that's what the feeling I get, is we don't have enough of a following on Instagram. So, yeah, obviously this has left us feeling a little bit deflated. I mean, we then said, that will come across our path later on probably, but we thought, fuck that, let's go to some other venues and get in there, which is what we're doing. But it's kind of left me thinking, how did it change so much to be that is what people look at, right? People look at those in charge. The people in charge are looking at the figures. They don't necessarily listen to your music anymore. They will just look at how many people follow you on your Instagram account. And then you kind of think, and then, through conversations you have with other people, it's all about the algorithm. So, from what I gather, an algorithm is just a computer mind It's just basically a few things that have been written into some software that means that if your posts hit that algorithm in the right way, or the right amount of people come across your video because you posted it at 1:45 on a Tuesday morning, it hits people in the right way, and obviously people have to like the content, but only if it hits those right little the keystrokes. You've typed the right words into your description of your video or your photograph, that then are you allowed to the next room of the algorithm where your posts will appear in front of other people, which means that potentially you'll have more people liking your posts. But this isn't taste-led. It's computer AI-led. And it kind of, I've just been laying there thinking about it, actually. It's fucking crazy. We're chasing something, or creatives are chasing something. That it means that they're not potentially, and I've been guilty of it as well. You know, I think that's why I kind of pulled back from doing YouTube stuff a little bit, because I kind of realized that I was doing stuff not because I was trying to be creative. Initially, that's what it started out being. I wanted to be creative, or help people in teaching and blah, blah, you know, stuff like that, or whatever it is I was doing. But then I started to think of it in a different way, that, oh, actually, if I say this in my video, the algorithm will like it, and more people will get to see it, which means my numbers will go up, which means I'm more popular. I don't know. I could be completely wrong about this, so please excuse me if I am. But that's my take on it at the moment. I just think it's fucking lunacy, absolute crazy stuff, that we are working in a creative field, music, or, you know, and our popularity is decided by an algorithm. Isn't that nuts? I can't get my head around it. It's kind of making me, I don't know, it's making me sort of, well, actually, what it's doing for me personally is it's going, all right, actually, I'm just going to do whatever I like. I'm not gonna try and think about whether I'm feeding some computer. And bear in mind, these companies are making an absolute fortune. Same as Spotify, same as Apple Music. You know, your listeners go up depending on whether you hit a playlist or not, which is an algorithm. It's not even a human being. It's a computer that is deciding, because you've done a certain thing, or your piece of music sounds a certain way, whether it hits a playlist. I mean, there must be some human element of it. I don't know. I would hope so. But it is absolutely crazy that this stuff is being decided by ones and zeros. Someone's flicked a couple of boxes or set a program up that decides what gets through, what the gatekeeper is. You know, and this is back to the old model of, this is one of the reasons. God, hang on, what is it? It's 3:34 in the morning. I must sound like a mad person, but I just couldn't sleep, so I had to sort of come down and get this off my chest. Yeah, it's the same thing, actually. Talking about, thinking about this podcast. I'm laying there realizing that I haven't done a podcast this week. And then feeling bad because I'm thinking, oh shit, if I don't do a podcast this week, people aren't going to listen to it because it's maybe it's not hitting a certain thing that the algorithm likes. Isn't that nuts? stuff that we're supposed to be doing because we enjoy it and we're thinking creatively, we're thinking about whether not even a real person likes it. Do I sound mad? Am I right? Am I wrong? Do I sound crazy? Anyway, oh yeah, so that's what I was saying. It's the same as when you're making a record for a major label. You that's kind of why I only sort of did it once as a producer for this artist Julian Beretta that I worked alongside Matt. I co-produced an album for Julian Beretta. I ended up not liking really, although it did well. I didn't really like the end result of the record because it had been A&R'd a bit. The A&R man got involved a bit too much, and you end up making a record because you're being led by someone who's not a musician, who's not really, who's never written a song. They're telling you who it's got to be mixed by, what the taste of the day is, what kind of record you should be making because this is popular and this is popular. You end up making a record that you don't particularly like that much anymore at the end of it because you've jumped through so many hoops to get this through the gate, get it through the gate. So you finish a record and you go, actually, I'm rinsed now. Didn't particularly like it that much. It was good fun making it. Had a lovely time making it, but you kind of go, actually, where's the creative? It starts off with really good intentions and being creative. God, I'm ranting. I must sound absolutely crazy. It's 20 to 4 in the morning and I'm ranting like a madman. Anyway, I just had to get that off my chest. Dare I say it? Fuck the algorithm. Actually, I want to do things. Well, I'm going to carry on posting and doing stuff, but I think maybe if we're not a slave, I'm using the word slave, to a piece of computer-generated software, I don't know, maybe we'll all be a little bit happier. I see a lot of posts for people that sort of, putting the right, I've done it myself. I've researched it myself. What's the right hashtag to put in on this post so more people will see it? It's not so more people will see it. It's so the algorithm will go, oh, I like that. You said this. You used the right lettering of this word. So we're going to push your posts around the world a little bit more. So you seem or you feel more popular. Oh, man. Anyway, please write in if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me. If I've got it all wrong, got it round my neck, I might have got it round my neck and got it all wrong. But I just had to get this off my chest before I tried to go back to sleep. Anyway, what else has been happening this week? So yeah, we do have some gigs coming up. I will be announcing some Trionic dates very, very shortly. Also, another thing to announce very soon, but I'm not going to announce that yet. I'm going to give it another week. But something cool is happening. So, and I know, this is what I'm doing as well. I'm doing a podcast because I like podcasts personally. I listen to them all the time, but I'm using these things to get the word out there about certain things, and that's how it works these days because that's how you do it, I guess. Anyway, maybe I've just contradicted myself hugely. I don't know. So I'm going to go through. Have I had any emails? Yes, I have had some emails. from last week's podcast. Thank you for listening, everybody. Listen to myself. Thank you for listening, everybody. Oh yeah. Oh, mental. Yeah, well, I find myself looking at the numbers of who listened to my podcast last week. Weird. It's like a weird form of stroking. Not even ego stroking. It sort of, you go, oh, actually, I'm doing something that people are listening to. It does feel quite nice. I suppose that's the idea, isn't it? But also, I have to. Maybe I'm using this as some kind of weird kind of diary. I don't have a diary really, so maybe that's what I'm doing, using it as some weird kind of diary. Anyway, what have I got? In the Rob's Funk and Junk email box. God, I do sound tired. I can hear myself. I do sound tired. But I'm going to go back to bed shortly. What's happening? Rob's Funk and Junk email box. Right. Okay. Yeah. So also, if anyone's got any questions, you know where to send them. Rogs. Yeah, I am knackered. My emails, if you want to drop me a line, it's robsfunkandjunk@gmail.com. Drop me a line and maybe give me some sleep remedies or something. That would be handy. Right, I have an email here from a Mr. Philip Neal, who sent an email on the 1st of February. It says here, it's a question for podcast. Hey, I like questions. Hi, Rob. You may recall you gave me a couple of guitar lessons over Zoom in 2020 during COVID. Hope you're well. I do recall that. 2 questions for your podcast. For funk type gigs, do you use any reverb? Or for that style of music, do you prefer to keep the clean guitar sound bone dry so it sounds sharp and cuts for rhythm purposes? Any other sound rig tips for that kind of gig? I often find myself having to turn my overall volume down in small venues despite not being able to hear myself adequately. Many thanks, Philip. I usually don't use reverb for doing sort of like 16th type things. Maybe nowadays on my settings, so on a real amp. So say I'm turning up to a gig and I've just got like a little Fender Deluxe or something. I might use a tiny bit of spring off the amp. If that's all I've got, just an amp and a guitar and a pedal in front of it, I might use a tiny bit of spring, and I might adjust that during the gig myself. I use a tiny bit. If I'm doing a gig where I'm using in-ears, I tend to use, and I'm using my Quad Cortex, or back in, when I was using a Kemper, I might dial in a tiny little ambience reverb, just a tiny bit, so it sounds like the amp is not just directly on the cone. The mic is not directly on the cone. It sounds like there's a little bit of room, tiny bit of room. But I don't use loads and loads of reverb unless it's a stylistic part that requires loads of reverb. I do love playing with spring reverb on amps, though. I really enjoy that. But for tight 16th type funk stuff, I don't use a lot of reverb at all. When I'm recording, same thing. I might feed it into a plate or something, depending on how spacious the track is. The track I'm working on currently has got bags of reverb on it, but it all depends on what the song is, and I adjust as I go, really. But as a rule, say it's just a Strat into an amp, little to no reverb, if possible. What else? Any other sounding tips for this kind of gig? I tend to get myself set up so I can hear myself. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm loud, but I stand in a position where um, I get a good mix between the drums and the guitar amp. So I never have a situation where I can't hear myself that well if I can help it. But that depends who you're playing with, because some people just they play way too loud. And but playing with people who are aware of their own volume is quite important, I think. So yeah, I tried to do that. I tried to sort of mix myself. Most of these gigs, when you're turning up to a small bar or something, you don't have any monitoring yourself anyway, so you're relying on your own backline. So I turn my amp up loud enough. Quite often I try and position it in a way that it's not cutting people's faces off that are in the venue. I'm always aware of the treble on an amp, because obviously the high end of an amp will really sort of cut someone's face off. So I tend to angle the amp so it's not directly pointed at someone. But yeah, just experiment, I guess, and just see how it sounds. But really, what you want is for you to stand in situ where you can hear yourself. Your amp sounds good. The interaction between your guitar and your amp sounds good, and that it sounds like a mixed blend between the bass and the drums. Sorry, I got a dry throat. And that's peaking my microphone there. This might not be the best recorded podcast ever, because I've just set it up in the middle of the night, and yeah. Oh man. I do seem to be waking up in the middle of the night a lot at the moment. And then the first thing I do is reach for my AirPods and put a podcast in and listen to something, and that helps me get to sleep. I don't know if that's healthy or not, but I've been doing that for the last couple of years at least. I just drift off to sleep while someone else is talking to me. I do tend to listen to, I've spoken about this before, I listen to Bill Burr a lot. I listen to, I'm a massive fan of Louis C.K. He's a genius. I know he's had a bit of trouble of late, but yeah, he's a very funny man, and yeah, I listen to him a lot. So that's weird, isn't it? Going to sleep with a grown man talking into my ear all night. That's very strange. I have another email here from Marcus Tetmar. Hey, Marcus. How you doing? Where are you from, Marcus? He's got some interesting tags here. Automate your taxes. Automate your software. Anyway, I shouldn't be reading that out. It's down at the bottom of his email. Anyway, sorry if I've divulged any information, Marcus. He says here, so it's titled Sire LC-HC, which is the Sire Larry Carlton H7, sorry, not HC, H7. Hi, would love to hear your thoughts on the Larry Carlton H7V. I've been tempted by the same guitar. I like a P90. I've heard these guitars are very good, and if so, they seem incredible value for the price. So it'd be great to hear your verdicts. I would concur. Yes, it is a very fine guitar for the price. They're pretty damn cool, actually. Yeah, I've used it on a few things already. I haven't gigged it yet, but I have a gig next week, and I'm going to take it out on that. It's crazy. I'm going to just check, actually, how much they are. Sire LC H7. £599. Man, for that money, that's a brilliant guitar. I mean, I'm sure, you could perhaps do a little bit of work on them when you get it out of the box, to tailor it to yourself. My father-in-law bought one, actually, on my recommendation, and he absolutely loves it. He absolutely adores it. But yeah, I think the work he had the frets worked on slightly, but it's £600 you're paying for a guitar. I'm sure people have spent much more on a guitar and still had work done on them when they've arrived. But and these things move all the time. But I think he had the frets slightly taken down at the side of the neck, smoothed off, and he had a bit of a fret job done. But he absolutely loves it. The pickups sound great. It's not a completely hollow body though, which I thought it was going to be. So yeah, brilliant guitar, really nice. My son bought a P90, like a P90 sort of 335 style guitar from Eastman a few months ago actually, and that's a really beautiful guitar as well. There's a load of them out there that are cheaper than going out to buy a Gibson, or an Epiphone or something. So yeah, I would definitely give it a try. And if you haven't, if you're not feeling it, sell it on. But yeah, go for it. Really, really cool little guitar. What was I going to say? Maybe I should get back to bed. Oh yes, I wanted to say hello to my daughter, if she's listening. Hey Libs, she did tell me that she listens to my podcast and she finds it quite relaxing listening to my voice, which is nice. Yeah, love you Libs, if you're listening. And yeah. Anyway, that's it from me, I guess. Thanks for your questions. I'm going to go back to bed and try and get some sleep. And hopefully I'll be back next week. But I'm not going to be led by what I believe. I think I was putting a bit too much pressure on myself to do one of these once a week. And I think I'm going to do them whenever I feel like it. And I did just feel like it. Laying in bed, I just thought I'll get down there and have a little chat. Empty my brain. So, yeah, thanks for listening. Remember, if you've got any questions, drop them into robsfunkandjunk@gmail.com. And I maybe see you next week. Stay safe. Bye.